The Far East is a pivotal region for mining and precious metals, and that's where Steppe Gold is focused. Steppe Gold describes itself as Mongolia's premier gold miner. Aneel Waraich is Executive Vice President Director. Aneel, welcome to Kitco.
Thank you for having me.
Thumbnail, Steppe Gold. You started production in 2020, and it looks like you're expanding.
Yeah, exactly. In a very tough environment in April 2020, when being in the Far East, you couldn't get into the Far East as hard as you tried. The country was essentially closed. We brought production online in our phase one heap leach operation successfully, profitably, commercially. So it's been a run. At that point, we hit all-time highs for gold, and here we are a few years later and hitting close to new highs again and expanding our business at the same time.
Look, there's a lot to get to because you've had some developments that have happened. But first, maybe just talk about your production profile, what you're at and where you're going to.
Absolutely. So when we started the oxide mine production, a run rate of around 40,000 ounces. So over the last 12 months, we produced 40,000 ounces at $800 to $850 all-in costs. So very competitive cost, high margin production. So over the next 2 years, we're forecasting about 40,000 ounces per annum. So 2023 and 2024 to be conservative. And I think we'll hit those numbers and beyond. But certainly that still generates a decent amount of cash flow to grow our business. And so underneath the oxide mine, there's a large sulfide endowment that we've put a feasibility study on that today has 12 years of mine life at over 103,000 ounces per annum on a gold equivalent basis. So we'll essentially more than double our production profile from 2023 to 2025. In 2025 onwards, we'll produce over 100,000 ounces per annum at, again, industry-leading cost of $850 to $900 all-in cost. That's more than our market cap in cash flow in a couple of years. So a lot of growth opportunity that we think that 12-year mine life will significantly grow as we continue to drill these deposits that have only been drilled down to 350 meters to 400 meters and continue to grow. So a lot of opportunity to grow, but we have enough ounces to bring that online and then use our cash flow to grow that business.
Let's talk about some recent news. Let's first start about the Anacortes mining transaction. That's going to give Steppe a bit of a footprint in Peru there, Aneel.
Yes, absolutely. So a very similar strategy that we took on in Mongolia by buying an established asset that had oxides and sulfides. In Peru here, we're looking at actually 2.5 million ounces. So the oxides or leachable sulfide component is actually 3 times the size of our phase one operation in Mongolia. And then you have 1.9 million ounces of sulfides below that. That, again, we think will grow, but are enough ounces probably to bring on a phase two in Mongolia. So a very similar approach where we can de-risk this asset, put our own feasibility study on it, advance all the permitting to be build ready over the next 2-3 years, and more importantly, focus on our social license and building that social credibility and license exactly like we did in Mongolia when we started our operations there. And so over the next 2-3 years, we'll de-risk this project. It's one of the highest grade undeveloped oxide mines in the world. Peru is the largest gold producer in the Americas, so that's pretty significant in terms of jurisdiction. It is a tier 1 jurisdiction. It is the Americas. So now we're a diversified company that has multiple assets in multiple jurisdictions and have now built a production profile that can grow to circa 200,000 ounces between our phase one, our phase two in Mongolia, and our phase one in Peru only. When that comes online as a heap leach, it'll probably look like 70 to 80,000 ounces per annum with about 7 years mine life. Currently, the MPV from the PEA was around 170 million US at $1,700 gold, or 270 million US at $1,900 gold. And we're acquiring it for $6 an ounce in the ground. So it's a fantastic acquisition at, I guess, the right time.
The other piece of news this month in May was the financing by Sprott, Aneel.
Yes. So it wasn't just Sprott, but obviously he's very supportive and has been in the stock since August 2020. He put in $15 million back in August 2020 at $2.15, has bought more in market, over 1 million shares, which is, not very usual for Eric. He usually just goes in the placements, and then he participated in this follow-on placement, which was completed. I want to note that it was completed at a premium to the current market price. Even today, let alone when it was announced. So a 4-month hold paper, no warrant, and we upsized the placement from $9 million to $12.1 million in this very tough environment that we're dealing with in the junior sector.
Describe Mongolia, Aneel. I know it really kind of came on the resource mining radar of everybody, with the Oyo Tolgai that was done there by Friedland.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mongolia as a country is a functional democracy, has been independent since the early 90s when the Soviet broke up. So they have parliamentary elections every 4 years. We think it's the best functioning democracy in the region. You have a mining-focused country. It's well endowed, home to world-class assets and discoveries, as you mentioned, with the Oyo Gold Mine, and still underexplored. And that's what Steppe Gold is focusing on the precious metal side. You have world-class copper porphyry discoveries and mines now built. And we want to focus on these epithermal deposits that have yet to be discovered and grow that. So there's, we have a first mover advantage. You have a supportive government. They're doing all the right things. You have no violence or terrorism. There has been no change in taxes or royalty regime since we started this company at the end of 2016. Since we brought our production online in 2020, we are building. We're building a bigger company with a bigger footprint in country and well supported by the government. I think that's a huge endorsement. You have a government has given us capital to grow and not ask for more. We went from 3 people who with an idea to now over 325, and 99% of that is Mongolian, and we'll double that over the next couple of years as we expand. So we're well liked. We're doing things properly, and in a way, we have a first mover advantage, having been one of the only companies to build a mine in the last few years in country, and still a land of opportunity. In a way, I would say it's one of the last frontiers.
How is the infrastructure around the mine because you have the mine that you're building and you're expanding right now? What's your roads? What's your electricity like?
Yeah, so currently our mine is operated on diesel gensets. We're about 40 kilometers off the main highway, so it's actually logistics are not an issue. Road is paved, and then you go into the off-roading, which is not really much dirt roading. That's flat and easy to get to. We've already obviously built the mine, so we brought over a crusher. Now we've brought a fixed crushing circuit for phase 2 is already being installed. So we procured that and installed that over the last couple of years. So it's easy to construct and expand. We've already built a 250-person camp. We will connect to grid power as we move into our phase 2 expansion. There's a cost associated with that, about 10-15 million US, but we're going to save over 10 million US a year in OPEX. That's over $100 an ounce to our ASIC. So we will connect to grid. So we'll move from diesel power to grid power over the next couple of years. And we are in the Mongolian steppe, so there is lots of wind and sun. However, it's not a reliable source for primary power. So we will and continue to look at alternative energy sources to toggle between grid power and maybe wind and or solar. And we've done power studies to look at that. But bottom line is we're in a great area. We're not in a remote area. It's easy to expand, to procure, and even to move that product as we move into phase 2.
Aneel, you talked about the resource or the growing resource culture in Mongolia and the supportive government. Talk about the community around you, though. Is there a community? And how supportive are they?
Yes, no, so absolutely. So, I mean, mining is the biggest employer, tax driver, educator actually in country. So it is very important. Mongolia relies on mining. So it's certainly very important in the jurisdiction. Where we're located in Dornor province, there wasn't a lot of villages or people around us. However, what we did first thing before even breaking ground was ensure that we went to everyone in about a 1,400 square kilometer radius. Let them know who we are, what we're going to be doing, and how they'll benefit. And so now we've seen the I guess these call it the suks, the sums, sorry, the villages grow because of our operation. Certainly a lot of people have moved closer to our mine for jobs. We've set up meat and dairy co-ops, a scholarship program that we've already distributed over 1,000 scholarships, part of the Billion Tree Initiative. So we're doing a lot of things locally where they can see direct benefit. It's not to say, hey, you'll see some value and benefit in the future. they're seeing that direct impact through education. We're converting unskilled labor force into skilled labor force who work for us. And so 70% of our staff today, of our 99% Mongolian staff, are from within the province. That's a great win for us to attract more jobs locally and not have to bus everyone in from Ulaanbaatar, which is 8-9 hours away.
Who's on the team? Maybe talk about your background and some of the highlights, Aneel.
Absolutely. So it does start with our my partners and our executive chairman and CEO Bata Tumor Osher and our executive chairman Matt Wood. He's an exploration geologist. Matt's been in country in Mongolia since 2009. Him and Bata actually built another company called the Voodoo Coal. That was a listing on the ASX and a $500 million cash sale at the end of 2011. Again, very similar approach. That was a very local company, had about 300 employees upon that exit and sale, and only 3 were expats. And so Bata, who's obviously Mongolian, leads the country operations and all stakeholder relations, and has a great relationship with Matt since 2009. So Matt's actually built multiple companies around the world, not just Mongolia. He was a co-founder and executive chairman of Vanco Resources in Brazil. That was sold as a copper producer in 2018 to Oz Minerals for about $440 million US. He's built companies and sold them in Armenia and West Africa. So you have a very strong exploration geologist that has had multiple wins and saw the value in this project that we bought from Centerra. It was a misunderstood asset, a non-core asset from Centerra that was 1.2 million ounces, and now it's almost 2.5 million ounces today and still growing, as I mentioned. So it's very strong technically and capital markets in terms of entrepreneurship. And then we have that local content with Bata, really has the relationships and has really done a great job in building our platform in Mongolia. So that's huge. Besides that, obviously myself, I'm a co-founder of the company. I've been involved since day one at the end of 2016 when we had no money and no assets, and helped negotiate both, I guess, in 2017, taking our company public in 2018. I'm based out of Toronto, capital markets background, both on the buy side and sell side. And we have a nice diverse board, local and diverse board.
What's the share structure, Aneel?
Yeah, so today with this newly announced financing that just closed last week, we're about 83 million shares outstanding. So we were 72.5 before we announced that financing that we discussed earlier. So that's pretty tight structure on a fully diluted basis. Again, we're going to be below 90 million shares with a little bit of cash that comes in. We went public at $2 a share when we hadn't built a mine. We had build risk, capex risk, finance risk, and permit risk. And gold price was about $1,250, $1,300. And we have a 50% higher gold price. And we've maintained the integrity as much as possible of that cap structure while bringing production online and growing our asset base, which we've done all of that. And part of it is we own the company. So as a management team and board, we own close to 20% of the company today. I've never sold a share and been public for just 1 week shy of 5 years actually today. May 23rd, 2018 is when we were public. So you have a very strong and aligned management team that have significant skin in the game, that are tied. Our wealth is tied to the success of this company. I think it's very important. And then, outside of us, you have groups and brand names like Eric Sprott, who own just under 11% of our company. Fidelity Investments own 6% of our company. Triple Flag and Elliott out of New York, who backed us as a private company, and in multiple family offices as well. So I would say a strong shareholder registry that we want to continue to grow, and a very solid capital structure as a producer that's doubling its production profile in the next couple of years and continue to build this production profile globally now as a diversified multi-asset, multi-jurisdiction producer.
You mentioned Triple Flag. Is there a stream on the production right now, Aneel?
There is. So Triple Flag came in for a $28 million US stream between themselves and Elliott. They also put in $7 million of equity at $2 a share. And so we certainly aligned ourselves and themselves as part of a transaction. So they weren't just a financial partner. Triple Flag is very strong technically and operationally, a blue chip team, and we're very lucky to have them help us build our company back in 2017 when we were still private. So for 28 million US, they get 25% of our gold production, 50% of our silver. We are mainly a gold producer today, so about 95+% of our production is gold out of our oxide mine. They receive 25% of that and pay us 17% of spot. That will fall off to a tail once we deliver 46,000 ounces. So in a couple of years, the max amount of ounces delivered will be 7,125. So certainly a lot more upside in this phase 2 expansion. But phase 1 allowed us to pay for the show, and their involvement certainly allowed us to grow.
And you also get a fellow Toronto resident. Neil, maybe you can tell us lastly about catalysts over the next 12 months.
Yeah, so we've had a fairly busy year already. But in terms of catalysts, I think what would be next is probably the next few weeks, or I guess in a month. By mid-June, you'll have this Anacortes transaction fully approved by the shareholders. So today last week we announced the definitive agreement. All boards unanimously approved the transaction, lock-up agreements on their side for 20-25% of their shareholders, including board of management on their side, as well as large investors like Ross Beatty and Delbro. The remaining votes will be cast mid-June, and that'll close. So that will officially make us a sub just under 5 million ounce company with two countries, multi-jurisdictions and whatnot. So I think that's the first step in recovery and re-rate. Soon after, I think we're on track. We'll call it end of Q2 or early Q3 to announce our phase 2 expansion facility. So project financing facility for phase 2 will be mainly debt that funds the 130 million US of capex for that phase 2 expansion that has already begun. As I mentioned, we already built the fixed crushing circuit. But I think the announcement of having the capital to fully fund our phase 2 expansion over the next 24 months of construction will be a significant catalyst. After that, we have drilling results that will come from our mining license currently where we're operating. So we are looking to drill potentially 20 to 30,000 meters this year, stepping out from our core deposits, our 4 deposits, and actually for the first time stepping out and looking for other satellite deposits or discoveries on our mining license. So currently, our oxide mine only runs for another 2 years if we don't find more material. We have never actually stepped out and looked for new deposits. So the chances are probably good to have results and maybe extend that mine life by finding and identifying more oxides on our mining license. So that's also another catalyst. And then later this year, we've already announced it, but we're on track about November of this year to list on the Hong Kong exchange. And you may ask why. Well, one is we are an Asian producer, so we are well understood. We're not an emerging market, a frontier market. So we're well understood, and in fact, we're only going to be, 1 in 8, less than 10 producers that trade on the Hong Kong exchange, where the liquidity is significantly higher. The culture in Asia certainly gets gold, so you can see that on the Hong Kong exchange, just in the last couple of months, as gold has moved higher, they've all moved 40 to 100% higher. We haven't seen that in North America yet. The majors are starting to move. The juniors haven't moved at all. But that's certainly a way to create more liquidity, close the valuation gap, and bring in more Asian capital that's certainly interested in our company today. So that's on track for about a November listing in Hong Kong, and it's very exciting. We have about 30% of our shareholder base just over in Asia already. Like I said, it's well understood, and adding Peru certainly didn't hurt in that valuation as we get closer to that. Those are the main catalysts. I'm sure there's more. Again, thinking about over the next 12 months, you have continued production as well from our oxide mine. We just came out with our Q1 numbers. We've been producing 14 months consecutively without any issues, no hiccups, no start and stop. So as production ramps up in the Q2 and Q3 in the spring and summer months, that's more cash flow, more cash on our balance sheet. As you know, we're a high margin producer, and we've produced at the rates of 12 to 15,000 ounces in our spring and summer months. So I think that's significant from a cash flow buildup, even at today's gold price, if gold doesn't move higher.
Aneel Waraich, thanks for speaking with Kitco.
Thanks so much.
My name is Michael McCrae, and you're watching Kitco Mining.